Still focusing on security, we chat with someone who's been in those rooms and wore those shoes of fighting the security problems in Nigeria. Col Yomi Dare speaks with Ebuka Obi-Uchendu next on Rubbin'Minds.
Welcome back. We're still talking security on the show today, and I'm joined now by someone who knows very well how this works from the inside, retired Col Yomi Dare. Thanks for joining us today, sir.
Thank you very much for having me on board. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. I want to go straight to it now and talk about, the issues with regards to how security personnel have handled things in the last couple of years. We did hear, I remember in 2015 when Mr. President was sworn in, talked about leading from the front and moving the defense sort of apparatus to Maiduguri in particular to run things from there. We don't know how that panned out eventually, but we've heard a lot of complaints then. Recently, we saw a viral video from a military personnel talking about welfare and things along those lines. So there's just a general belief that besides the military being underfunded or not funded properly or not having enough support from government, there's just that the morale generally is very low. What is your take on how security has been run in the last couple of years?
Thank you very much. Well, we have been back and forth on the issue of security in this country. And my take here is that when it comes to security, no one can claim monopoly of knowledge because security, as I say, is everybody's business. Now, to your question, you see series of we've had series of leadership in terms of managing this current quagmire that we are into, and of course that is the issue of the terrorism in the northeast in particular. And as we speak, if we have to be very honest with ourselves, this has cut across the whole nation. So I want to look at it from the perspective of addressing what I believe are the social problems in this country. We have contemporary social problems, and we first must address this contemporary social problems. This should address the rule of law. This should address the issue of anti-corruption agencies, and of course, civil society, government policies, infrastructural development, and maintenance, job creation, in order to reduce unemployment, and of course, the issue of religious organizations and the opinion of public opinion of leaders. You see, aside that, right now we have the military, facing the terrorists, on all fronts, so to speak. They've been on it in the last 10 years. And I think it's high time that a decisive action needs to be taken by the president.
So that's sorry to cut you in there, because that's where I think a lot of Nigerians are concerned about. You mentioned basically the phrase, the decisive action, and there doesn't seem to be a belief by a lot of Nigerians that is happening, or there's an intention for that to happen anytime in the recent past or even in the future. Because we did hear that we've reclaimed territory back from the terrorists. All of a sudden, we're hearing stories about territory being taken back again by these terrorists. Once in a while, we hear about people being slaughtered. There's a lot that still seems to be happening, and it seems to be getting worse. What is this decisive action that needs to be taken, and what do you think is hindering it?
Yeah, for me, decisive action in the sense that I recall stating that on one of your programs on this channel's platform, there's need to declare a state of emergency in the entire area where we're having these insurgents. There's need to declare a state of emergency, and then we need to take the battle right, to the enemy. I expect that we should have quick intervention forces. I'm sure there's something akin to that right now, but I think we need to add more spirit, more life, more energy into that, such that they work, in close cooperation, especially with the air companies, with the Air Force, such that if anything happens, maximum, say 10, 15 minutes, they are already there,
Yeah.
And aside that, like I said earlier, there's need to declare a state of emergency. And how do you achieve that? First, probably, suspend, other forms of governance there and bring in, purely emergency rule. If it's going to be for maybe in the first instance for 6 months, watching, studying the situation, how things get under control.
Are you worried, or is it unusual for you there that we've had service chiefs stay in power for this long? A lot of Nigerians have concluded that maybe they've either run out of ideas or they've stayed there too long, and we just need just a new breath of life with regards to how the security challenges have been tackled in Nigeria. Do you think it's a good thing that they've stayed this long, or you think it's become part of the problem?
Well, in all my entire service career, I've never witnessed a situation where service chiefs are left in that particular office for this long, and I've seen quite a number. But again, the issue of a change or removal of service chiefs, that's a prerogative of the commander-in-chief, that is the president himself. Now, having said that, it's not to say that probably they've run out of ideas. After all, they are not the only one. People come up with ideas for them, to marshal and then see to its execution or approve of its execution. But as far as I'm concerned, in my own personal opinion, I do not see anything wrong. I believe that at this point in time, because there has been a lot of hue and cry about the need to change the service chiefs, I don't think there's anything wrong in changing the service chiefs. I mean, as we speak, they are very fantastic officers in their own rights, and they've done so well, especially since 2015. And I mean, I have good relationship. They are all my friends, and I know that they are good, thoroughbred officers. But again, change. There's need for change, so that people can, get fresh ideas and then move forward.
When you were a junior officer, did you have reasons to complain about welfare?
Oh, well, when I was serving, yes. I mean, whether you like it or not, human needs is insatiable, and like Oliver Twist, people want to crave for more, So, but again, you must act within the content or within available resources to manage the situation. So when such fundings are increased, maybe for equipment, of course, first and foremost, I think the well-being of the fighting forces should be looked into. For example, I mean, if a soldier knows that even if he doesn't come back home from battle, that is, if he lost his life, his family will be taken care of. I think he will continue to fight until his last, blood is dropped. Yeah. I think welfare is very, very germane, in the whole equation. Yeah.
How would you rate this government when it comes to security? Would you give them a pass?
Well, that is very, very, very subjective. It depends on how you look at it, because the problem of security, like I traced back, is something that has become hydra-headed, and well, this government didn't create it, but one expects that, as they came in fairness to them, well, they've made some impact, but I think there's still much more to be done. There's still much more.
Okay. Just before we go now, so I mean, What would you say we need to be doing? Where would you say we need to be headed with regards to how security here is run? What should the service chiefs be looking at? What should government be doing differently? I mean, this government still has about 2.5 years or more to go, and this fight is still a big one for them. What should they be focusing on?
Well, for the service chiefs, since they've had, it's like a directed net. I mean, the whole citizen, people are crying and clamoring that they are not doing enough. And even the president alluded to that. But for me, if they have another opportunity, that is by way of remaining in office, I think it's high time for them to go back to the drawing boards and look inwards and re-examine and re-strategize on their approach to especially welfare and then equipment and then even the strategy of executing the war against Boko Haram, especially the war against insurgency, the banditry issue, the herdsmen farmers clash, the kidnapping, the series of armed robbery, and other organized crimes. It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. And of course, the federal government should also look at community policing. For me, to reduce the crime rate across this country, there is need for us to encourage community policing, and this should be facilitated. The policing should not be much of force, but it should be of service. It should be of service, and it should be the policing with a human face.
Are you worried about the future?
Well, naturally, because you want to bequeath a society that is even better than what you met to your children and your children's children. So, I mean, I am one of those that really care that, oh God, what's going to happen, in about 20, 30 years from now, when we'll be restricted in terms of mobility, as if we were still alive as very old people, and we all crave for a better Nigeria for our children and our children's children. Yes.
So, I mean, we've talked a lot about the Northeast. There's a lot that's happening down south. You've even mentioned some of them, the kidnappings. We had, quote unquote, the herdsmen issues going on earlier on. So it's not just the Northeast that's going through this. I mean, there's the South, and you mentioned community policing. There's people who have even talked about state policing. How viable are these options? Do you realistically see Nigeria or our legislature stepping up to the plate to say, okay, this is what Nigerians probably need, and let's rejig our policing system? Do you think that's ever going to happen?
Are you talking about the feasibility or the practicability of community policing?
Let's talk about both.
Well, I have always said this. I really don't see anything wrong about us introducing community policing and even state policing. Skeptics are afraid that, given the political situation or the political culture of our people, that you find, especially the state governors, that they are going to hijack, the whole thing, and then they start, dictating and whatnot. And at the same time, some other people are afraid right there at the top that, by the time there is state policing or community policing, their power, will be distilled, and they will not have such authority. Well, I think in this 21st century, it's high time that we petition some of this mundane and unproductive, uncivilized, and not forward-looking mentality. If a governor decides to, or turns himself into a monster and starts dictating, well and good. It's tenure. It's all transient. His tenure will come and it will go, or and then he'll be voted out. So we just must start this thing so that, you know, at the end of the day, we'll get it right. But when we are not even starting and we start speculating and thinking about the worst, I don't think that's going to get us anywhere, in my opinion.
All right.
We must just give it a try, and especially for community policing, you know, it will help us. It will reduce the crime rate seriously across the nation. It will definitely reduce crime rates.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today and for your insights on how things are running. And I mean, we all pray for a better Nigeria. We all hope that things can only get better.